When we heard that there was going to be a civic town hall going on, Michelle and I decided we were going to crash. Partly because we're sitting around the house, we figured, let's get out. We miss Chicago, and even though we're at this extraordinary moment where we've got to stay physically distant, and I know it's a challenge for a lot of the students and their families right now. I can't think of any time where it's been more important for us to think about civics, to think about what role do we play in a democracy in making sure that people can get through the struggles they're going to be going through. You figuring out how you can be a part of the solution and not the problem in making your own neighborhood and community better. Those are all going to be crucial to making democracy work. And that's why I'm so excited that so many of you are participating in this town hall today.
I want to commend Dr. Jackson in my hometown, my CPS family. I am a product of that system, and I'm just so excited that you all are prioritizing the importance of knowing how to be a member of a society. And we need young people like all of you to understand the power and the role that you have and play in continuing to move this country ahead, not for us, but for you, because this is your future. We are counting on you all to get us to that next phase of this journey. So can't wait to hear from the students. I hear you all have some questions for us, and we're ready to tackle them.
What inspiring ways have you seen others across the country meet their community needs and stay engaged during this challenging time?
We hear the stories every day of all of the medical providers and the medical workers who are putting their lives on the line. And that's a big, powerful way that people are sacrificing and making sure that they're playing a part. But there are also ways big and small. I mean, people are delivering food to folks who can't get out. I mean, simple things like checking on your loved ones. Pick up the phone. Don't just text. Make sure the people that you love hear your voice. But thank you so much for the question, and proud of you.
One of the most important things that all the young people today who are joining us have got to remember, this is a time where maybe it's very easy to feel powerless. We're helpless. There's a virus we can't see. We're scared. We don't know when this is going to end and how it's going to unfold. But this is also a time where people are coming together in such incredible, inspiring ways to build and activate power. Still socially and physically distant, but remembering that there's nothing like actually joining with others to change the equation of power.
Civic life is the pursuit of answering the question, how shall we live together? And now that we're living apart, what does engaging in civic life mean? What should we hold on to, and what should we rethink?
Back when I was just a little bit older than you guys, and I was just getting started, and I was a community organizer on the South Side, we used to do trainings in communities, and there were a couple of basic concepts that we try to transmit. Number one is that you can't just give away the power that you have, and I think we do that all the time. As you go along in life, what you'll discover is that a lot of people who have fancy titles and have important offices and positions, they don't know what they're talking about. They're not super amazing, that different from your mom or your dad or your uncle or your cousin. They may have had different opportunities. They may have been able to access institutions in ways that you weren't able to. They may have worked hard and built up expertise so that they actually earned and deserved those positions, but they weren't different from you. There's nothing that anybody on this call can't understand, and with hard work and knowledge and what Eric said, connections to other people, there's nothing you can't influence. And that, I think, is the opportunity for all the young people now, is figuring out that early. All right, that was a long answer. This is what happens when you haven't had a chance to talk to people in a while.
What aspects of civic life do you think are most vulnerable right now? And what can we do to protect or strengthen them?
I think there are some big parts of civic life that are absolutely vulnerable in a time where we're physically separated from one another, but also full of fear right now. One of the most important things that we've got to make sure we do in a time like this, it's not really tangible, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's psychological, is to remember there's no such thing as someone else's problem right now. You know, if a homeless shelter across town becomes a hot spot for COVID, that will eventually work its way to your neighborhood. If something falls apart in some other part of the country and you think, well, my state's all right, that eventually is going to affect us. And what is true of a pandemic is true of every other problem we face in society right now. So I think that's one danger, is that people start thinking too much just about themselves and those who are tight with them. And we got to make affirmative efforts to build bridges of knowledge and understanding and listening with people who aren't like this.
Yes, right now, it's harder for us to connect in some ways. We can't go to a meeting in a neighborhood. There's some value in seeing people face to face and not just communicating online. But the basic principles of civics, which is let me work with others to create influence on an issue that we care about based on the values that are important to us. And we'll keep on working together, trying to broaden our coalition of people who are concerned about this until eventually we have enough influence and enough power to actually change things. Well, that formula doesn't change just because we can't sit in the same room together. So now is the time where I think a lot of people are starting to realize now's the time for me to really get involved, talk to my friends, talk to my neighbors, because now it's pretty urgent. When things are going good, you can afford just to spend all day looking at YouTube videos of cats and other strange stuff. But when suddenly things aren't going good, you have to look up and pay attention. And what I think a lot of the young people on the line are suddenly paying attention to is stuff's not fair. And it's not well planned out. And we could be doing better than this. The scary thing, but the exciting thing is that then puts the responsibility on you to figure out, all right, what am I going to do about it? And as Eric points out, the one thing I'll say for certain, you can't do it by yourself.
All of us have power, and how we choose to exercise that is really up to us. And really, it's important to be engaged and get off the sidelines and make your voices heard.
In some ways, this is an incredible time and opportunity for student voice. One of the beautiful things right now is that you can connect with people just like you, your age, your level of passion, your level of commitment, who are from completely different circumstances around the country. The central question of all civics is who decides? This is one where which of the things we're going to see on the other side of the fog, the other side of this pandemic, we decide. We decide right now by how we show up for each other. We decide right now by the habits we're forming of whether we're reaching out to the elderly neighbor on the floor of our building or down the street. Those habits right now that we build will last and carry through on the other side, right? In the aftermath, it still takes a long time to put the pieces back together, but putting the pieces back together is easier if we've already been practicing building.
We love you all.
Super proud of those young people.